The downtown bus lurched to a stop on Maple Street, its brakes hissing in the humid afternoon air. Marcus Williams stood near the rear door, his backpack weighing heavy on his shoulders after another long day at Jefferson High School. At 17, he'd grown accustomed to the rhythm of public transportation, the smell of diesel mixed with cheap perfume, the constant chatter of strangers, and the occasional drama that unfolded during rush hour. He watched as passengers shuffled toward the front, fishing for their fare cards or crumpled dollar bills. That's when he noticed the elderly man struggling at the payment machine near the driver's seat. The man wore a slightly wrinkled but expensive-looking coat, and his silver hair was neatly combed back. His hands trembled as he patted his pockets frantically, his weathered face growing increasingly distressed. "I'm sorry. I must have left my wallet," the old man stammered, his voice carrying a refined accent that seemed out of place on the number 47 bus route. "I was certain I had it when I left the hospital." The bus driver, a heavy-set woman named Donna, who Marcus recognized from his daily commute, crossed her arms impatiently. "Sir, no fare, no ride. That's the rule. You'll have to get off at the next stop." Several passengers groaned audibly. A woman in a business suit checked her watch with an exaggerated sigh. A teenager near the window rolled his eyes and turned up his music. Marcus felt something stir in his chest, a familiar discomfort he always experienced when witnessing someone's humiliation. "Please," the elderly man said, his voice quieter now. "I just need to get to Riverside Avenue. My daughter is expecting me, and I don't have my phone either. There was an incident at the medical center, and I'm afraid I'm quite disoriented." Donna's expression didn't soften. "I've heard every excuse in the book, sir. Company policy is company policy." Marcus made his way through the crowded aisle, weaving between standing passengers and shopping bags. His mother's voice echoed in his head, her gentle reminder from just that morning as she'd prepared to leave for her cleaning job at the Grandview Estates. "Always help when you can, baby. We might not have much, but we have enough to share kindness." "I'll cover his fare," Marcus said, reaching the front of the bus. He pulled out his wallet, a worn leather bifold his father had given him years ago before the accident. Inside were 3 $20 bills, money he'd earned from his weekend job at the grocery store. He'd been saving for new basketball shoes, the kind his teammates wore. But something about the old man's confusion and vulnerability made the decision easy. Donna's eyebrows rose. "You sure about that, Marcus? That's $4.50. "I'm sure." He fed a $5 bill into the machine, and the receipt printer whirred to life. The elderly man turned to face Marcus fully for the first time. His eyes, a striking pale blue, were glassy with what might have been tears, or simply fatigue. Deep lines creased his face, speaking of decades of laughter and worry. "Young man, I don't know what to say. This is extraordinarily kind of you." "It's nothing, sir. Everyone needs help sometimes." Marcus gestured toward the empty seats. "Please, sit down." As the bus resumed its journey through the city streets, Marcus returned to his spot near the back, but not before he caught the old man studying him with an intensity that seemed unusual. The man had settled into a seat near the middle, his hands now resting calmly on his knees, but his gaze kept drifting back to Marcus. 20 minutes later, Marcus pulled the stop request cord. Riverside Avenue was still several blocks away, but this was his stop, the corner near the affordable housing complex where he lived with his mother, Janet. She would be home from work soon, exhausted from scrubbing floors and toilets in mansions she'd never be able to afford. As Marcus stepped off the bus, he noticed the elderly man had also risen and was making his way to the exit. "Thank you again," the man said, extending his hand. "I'm Henry Castellano." Marcus Williams. They shook hands, and Marcus was surprised by the firmness of the old man's grip. "Marcus, would you allow me to repay you? Perhaps I could get your address, send you the money." "Really, sir, it's okay. It was just a bus fare." Marcus smiled and adjusted his backpack. "You take care of yourself." He walked away quickly, not wanting to make the man feel more indebted than necessary. Behind him, he heard Henry call out, "You're a good young man, Marcus Williams. I won't forget this." The word stayed with Marcus as he climbed the 3 flights of stairs to apartment 3C. His mother wouldn't be home for another hour, which gave him time to start on his calculus homework and maybe heat up some leftovers for dinner. Life in their modest two-bedroom apartment was simple, but stable. His mother worked 60-hour weeks as a maid for premium home services, cleaning 6 different houses on rotation. The work was hard, the pay was modest, but Janet Williams never complained. She'd raised Marcus alone since his father's death in a construction accident 9 years ago, instilling in him the values of hard work, education, and compassion. That evening, as they ate reheated chicken and rice at their small kitchen table, Marcus mentioned the encounter on the bus. His mother listened attentively, her dark eyes warm with approval. "You did the right thing, baby," she said, reaching across to squeeze his hand. "Your father would have done the same thing." Money comes and goes, but character, that stays forever. I just hope the old guy made it home okay. He seemed really confused. I'm sure he did, thanks to you. She stood to clear the dishes, moving with the careful efficiency of someone whose body ached from manual labor. Now, you finish that homework. You've got that college entrance exam coming up, and we both know education is your ticket to something better than this. Marcus nodded, though a familiar weight settled in his chest. His grades were excellent, a 3.8 GPA and strong SAT scores, but college seemed like a distant dream when he calculated the costs. Even with financial aid, there would be expenses they couldn't cover. His mother had a small savings account, but he knew it was earmarked for emergencies, not for his aspirations. Later that night, lying in his bed with textbooks scattered around him, Marcus thought about the elderly man again. There had been something unusual about Henry Castellano, not just his expensive coat or refined manner, but the way he'd looked at Marcus, as if memorizing his face. The gratitude in those pale blue eyes had seemed deeper than warranted for such a small gesture. He pushed the thought aside and returned to his calculus problems. Tomorrow would bring another day of school, another shift at the grocery store, another ride on the number 47 bus. Life would continue in its predictable pattern. Marcus had no way of knowing that his simple act of kindness had set in motion a series of events that would completely transform his future. He didn't know that Henry Castellano wasn't just any elderly man, or that their chance encounter would become the talk of the entire city within days. And he certainly couldn't have predicted that the next time he saw that pale blue gaze, it would be under circumstances that would leave him utterly speechless. The bus fare receipt lay crumpled in his backpack pocket, just another forgotten piece of paper in a teenager's chaotic life. Or so he thought. 3 days passed without incident. Marcus fell back into his routine: school, homework, his weekend shifts at Bradley's grocery on 4th Street, and the endless bus rides that stitched his life together. His mother continued her exhausting schedule, leaving before dawn and returning after dark, her hands perpetually raw from cleaning solutions, despite the thick gloves she wore. On Wednesday afternoon, Marcus was restocking cereal boxes in aisle 7 when his manager, Mr. Bradley, approached with an unusual expression, somewhere between confusion and excitement. "Marcus, there's someone here to see you," the older man said, scratching his balding head. "Says it's important. I told him you're working, but he insisted on waiting. He's been sitting in his car for 20 minutes. Marcus glanced toward the front windows and spotted a sleek black sedan parked in the fire lane. The kind of vehicle that probably cost more than his mother earned in 5 years. Did he say what he wanted? Nope. Just asked for Marcus Williams and said he'd wait. Mr. Bradley shrugged. "Take your break early if you need to. This seems, I don't know, significant somehow." Wiping his hands on his green apron, Marcus walked toward the automatic doors. The November wind bit at his face as he stepped outside. The sedan's rear door opened, and a man in a crisp charcoal suit emerged. Not Henry Castellano, but someone younger, perhaps 40, with dark hair and the confident posture of someone accustomed to authority. "Marcus Williams?" the man asked, extending his hand. "My name is David Preston. I work for Mr. Henry Castellano. He'd very much like to speak with you if you have a moment." Marcus's mind raced back to the bus encounter. "Is he okay? Did something happen?" "Mr. Castellano is perfectly well, thanks to people like you." David's expression warmed slightly. "He's actually in the car. Would you mind?" The rear window of the sedan rolled down, revealing Henry Castellano's familiar face. He looked different now, more composed, alert, dressed in an elegant navy suit that spoke of wealth and power. The confusion that had clouded his features on the bus had vanished entirely. "Marcus, my boy," Henry's voice carried genuine warmth. "Please, forgive this intrusion on your work. I wouldn't have come if it wasn't important. Mr. Castellano, you didn't need to come all this way. I told you the bus fare was nothing. Get in the car for just a moment, please. I promise not to keep you long." Marcus hesitated, glancing back at the grocery store where Mr. Bradley watched through the window with undisguised curiosity. Something in Henry's earnest expression convinced him. He slid into the leather interior, immediately aware of how his grocery store uniform contrasted with the luxury surrounding him. Henry studied him with those penetrating blue eyes. "Marcus, I need to explain something about the day we met. I wasn't entirely honest with you, though not intentionally. I'd had a small medical episode at the hospital. Nothing serious, but it left me disoriented. I wandered out without my belongings, without informing my assistant. Your kindness during that vulnerable moment meant more to me than you can imagine. I'm glad you're feeling better, sir. But really, please, let me finish." Henry leaned forward. "I spent the past few days thinking about our encounter. In my position, I meet countless people, most of whom want something from me. But you, Marcus Williams, you helped a confused old man on a bus, without knowing anything about him, without expecting anything in return. Do you understand how rare that is?" Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Anyone would have done the same. That's where you're wrong. 7 people watched me struggle with that fare machine. 7 people heard me ask for help. You were the only one who stepped forward." Henry pulled out an iPad from a briefcase beside him. "I hope you'll forgive me, but I had David research you a bit. You're a senior at Jefferson High School, honor roll student, part-time employee here. You live with your mother, Janet, who works as a residential cleaner. Your father passed away when you were 8. A flash of defensiveness rose in Marcus's chest. "Why were you investigating me?" "Because I wanted to understand the young man who helped me, and what I learned reinforced my first impression." Henry's voice softened. "Your mother works for Premium Home Services. As it happens, one of the homes she cleans belongs to my company's CFO, Patricia Montgomery. Patricia speaks very highly of your mother's work ethic and integrity." Marcus felt his cheeks warm with pride and embarrassment. "My mom's the hardest worker I know." "I don't doubt it. Marcus, I want to tell you something that might surprise you. I'm the founder and CEO of Castellano Industries. We manufacture medical equipment and pharmaceuticals. Perhaps you've heard of us." The name did sound familiar. Marcus had seen it on buildings downtown, on the side of delivery trucks. His expression must have revealed his shock, because Henry smiled gently. "I mention this not to impress you, but to provide context for what I'm about to offer." Henry set the iPad aside. "I have 3 children, Marcus. All of them are successful in their own right, but I sometimes wonder if I taught them the right values. They grew up with privilege, never wanting for anything. They're good people, but they lack something essential, the instinct to help a stranger without calculating the benefit to themselves. I'm sure they're fine people, Mr. Castellano. They are, but they're not you." Henry's gaze intensified. "I'm 73 years old, Marcus. I've built an empire, donated millions to charity, employed thousands of people. But your $4 bus fare taught me something I'd forgotten, that true generosity comes from those who can least afford it. When you gave me that money, you gave up something you needed. That's real sacrifice." The car felt suddenly too warm, too confining. Marcus gripped his knees. "Sir, I appreciate you coming here, but I need to get back to work. I want to fund your college education," Henry said quietly. "Completely. Tuition, housing, books, living expenses, any university you choose to attend." The words seemed to hang in the air like something physical. Marcus's mouth opened, but no sound emerged. His heart hammered against his ribs. I can't accept that," he finally managed. "That's too much. I only paid a bus fare. You paid more than that. You paid attention when others looked away. You paid respect when others showed contempt. You paid kindness when it cost you something real." Henry reached into his jacket and withdrew a business card. "I'm not asking you to decide right now. Take this. Think about it. Discuss it with your mother. My offer stands, with no strings attached. You want to be a doctor, an engineer, a teacher, whatever your dream is. I want to help you achieve it. Marcus took the card with trembling fingers. It was heavy cardstock, embossed with gold lettering. Henry J. Castellano, Chief Executive Officer, Castellano Industries. Why me? Marcus whispered. There are thousands of kids who need help. Because you reminded me why I started my company in the first place. 50 years ago, I was an immigrant son working 3 jobs to put myself through night school. I built Castellano Industries on the belief that hard work and integrity matter more than pedigree or connections. Somewhere along the way, surrounded by board meetings and stock options, I forgot what it felt like to struggle. You reminded me. David Preston cleared his throat from the front seat. Sir, you have the shareholders meeting at 4. Yes. Henry clasped Marcus's shoulder. Think about my offer. You have my direct number on that card. Call me anytime, day or night. And Marcus, don't let pride stand in the way of your future. Accepting help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Marcus stepped out of the car in a daze, the business card clutched in his hand like a winning lottery ticket. He watched the sedan pull away, its taillights disappearing into traffic. Mr. Bradley rushed out immediately. What was that about? Are you in trouble? No, sir. I think something impossible just happened. That evening, Marcus sat at the kitchen table while his mother prepared dinner, the business card positioned between them like a sacred object. He'd explained everything: the bus encounter, Henry's identity, the scholarship offer that seemed too generous to be real. Janet Williams stood at the stove, her back to him, shoulders rigid. When she finally turned around, tears streamed down her face. Baby, do you understand what this means? Her voice cracked with emotion. You could go to any school you want. You could become anything you want. You wouldn't have to worry about student loans or working 3 jobs like I did. Mom, it feels wrong, like charity. It's not charity, Marcus. It's a blessing. It's the universe rewarding you for being exactly who I raised you to be. She sat beside him, taking his hands in hers. Your father and I, we always dreamed of giving you opportunities we never had. This man, Mr. Castellano, he's offering you exactly that. Sometimes God works through strangers. Marcus looked at his mother's worn hands, thought of her aching back and early mornings. What if there's a catch? What if he wants something later? Then we'll deal with it together. But Marcus, what if there's no catch? What if this is just a good man wanting to help a good kid? She squeezed his fingers. Call him tomorrow. At least hear what he has to say about the details. That night, Marcus lay awake staring at the ceiling, his mind spinning through possibilities and fears. College had always seemed like a distant fantasy, something other people's children did. Now, suddenly, impossibly, it dangled within reach. He thought about Henry Castellano's words. Accepting help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Outside his window, the city hummed with its nocturnal rhythm. Somewhere out there, a CEO returned to his mansion, perhaps wondering if the teenager on the bus would take a chance on changing his life. And in apartment 3C, Marcus Williams held a business card and dared to dream bigger than he ever had before. What he didn't know yet was that accepting Henry's offer would lead him into a world far more complicated than he imagined, a world where his presence would challenge assumptions, create unexpected enemies, and ultimately force him to prove that his character ran deeper than a single act of kindness on a city bus. Marcus called the number on Henry Castellano's business card the following afternoon, his hands sweating as he pressed the phone to his ear. A professional receptionist transferred him immediately, and within seconds, Henry's warm voice filled the line. Marcus, I was hoping to hear from you. They arranged to meet on Saturday at Castellano Industries headquarters, a gleaming glass tower in the financial district that Marcus had passed countless times on the bus, but never imagined entering. His mother insisted on accompanying him, taking a rare day off from work and wearing her best church dress. The lobby alone was intimidating. Marble floors, abstract sculptures, and a security desk that looked more appropriate for a government facility than a business. But Henry himself greeted them personally, dismissing the formality with a grandfatherly hug that immediately put them at ease. Over the next hour, in a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, Henry outlined his proposal with the help of David Preston and a woman introduced as Caroline Fisher, head of the Castellano Foundation. The scholarship would cover 4 years at any accredited university, including graduate school if Marcus chose to pursue it. There were no requirements beyond maintaining reasonable academic progress, no obligations to work for Castellano Industries, no publicity requirements, nothing that would compromise Marcus's independence. "I want to be clear," Henry said, his blue eyes moving between Marcus and Janet. "This isn't about control or creating some kind of debt. This is about investing in character. Marcus showed me who he is on that bus, and I believe in him." Janet wiped tears from her eyes. "Mr. Castellano, you don't know what this means to our family. I've worked so hard to give my son opportunities, but college always seemed just out of reach. I understand more than you know, Mrs. Williams. My own mother cleaned houses to help pay for my education." Henry's voice carried the weight of old memories. "The difference is, I had to fight alone for every scholarship, every grant. Marcus doesn't have to do that. He can focus on his studies, on becoming the man he's meant to be." Marcus signed the papers in a daze, his signature looking small and uncertain next to the official stamps and legal language. As they prepared to leave, Henry pulled him aside. "There's something else I want to discuss with you. Next month, we're hosting our annual shareholder gala. It's a formal event, tedious for most people, but important for the company. I'd like you and your mother to attend as my personal guests." "A gala? Mr. Castellano, I don't think—" "Please, call me Henry. And I know it's outside your comfort zone, but I'd like to introduce you to some people. Consider it part of your education." He smiled. "Besides, I want my colleagues to meet the young man who reminded me why I started this company." Marcus glanced at his mother, who nodded encouragingly. "Okay. Thank you, Henry." The weeks that followed felt surreal. Marcus continued his routine. School, work, the bus rides. But everything had shifted beneath the surface. News of the scholarship spread through Jefferson High School, carried by Marcus's guidance counselor who'd been contacted to provide transcripts. Reactions were mixed. His closest friends, Tyler and Deshawn, were genuinely happy for him. "Man, you deserve this," Tyler said, clapping him on the back. "You're always helping people. It's about time someone helped you back." But others weren't so generous. Vanessa Mitchell, whose father was a prominent attorney and who'd always lorded her privilege over their classmates, made snide comments in the hallway. "Must be nice to get a free ride just for being in the right place at the right time," she said loudly enough for Marcus to hear. "Some of us actually have to earn our way." Her friend Brittany laughed. "I heard he basically guilt-tripped some old man into paying for everything. That's not scholarship. That's manipulation." Marcus tried to ignore the whispers, but they stung. He'd never asked for attention, never sought recognition. The simple act that had felt so natural on the bus now felt complicated, tainted by others' jealousy and assumptions. His mother noticed his troubled mood. "Baby, you can't let them get to you. People who've never struggled don't understand grace when they see it. They think everything has to be earned through competition. But sometimes blessings just come." "What if they're right, though? What if I don't deserve this?" Janet cupped his face in her work-worn hands. "You deserve every good thing that comes your way. You've been working since you were 14 to help with bills. You've never complained, never gotten in trouble, always put others first. This isn't random luck, Marcus. This is the universe balancing the scales." The night of the shareholder gala arrived with unseasonable warmth for December. A car service picked them up, Marcus in a rented tuxedo that Henry had insisted on providing, his mother in an elegant navy dress that made her look 10 years younger. The venue was the Grand Ballroom at the Riverside Hotel, a legendary space Marcus had only seen in magazines. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across hundreds of guests in formal wear. Waiters circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres that probably cost more than Marcus's weekly grocery store paycheck. He felt acutely aware of not belonging, of being an outsider in this world of wealth and influence. Henry found them immediately, introducing them to a dizzying parade of executives, board members, and investors. Most were polite but distant, offering congratulations that felt hollow, but a few engaged genuinely, asking about Marcus's college plans and expressing admiration for his story. "You must be very proud," a woman named Victoria Sterling said to Janet. She was perhaps 60, with silver hair and kind eyes. I raised 3 children while working as a nurse. I know how hard it is to do it alone. Janet's face brightened. It's been a journey, but Marcus makes it worthwhile every day. Everything changed when Henry took the stage to give his annual address to the shareholders. Marcus expected a dry financial report, but instead, Henry surprised everyone. This year has been exceptionally profitable for Castellano Industries, Henry began, his voice carrying easily through the room. Our medical equipment division exceeded projections by 18%, and our pharmaceutical research yielded 3 promising new treatments. But I want to talk about a different kind of success tonight. He gestured toward Marcus. A few weeks ago, I had a medical episode that left me disoriented and vulnerable. I found myself on a city bus without my wallet or phone, unable to pay the fare. 7 people watched me struggle. 7 people heard me ask for help. Only one, a 17-year-old boy on his way home from school, stepped forward to help. The room had gone completely silent. Marcus felt hundreds of eyes turn toward him, his face burning with embarrassment. Marcus Williams gave me $5 that day. Money he'd earned stocking shelves at a grocery store. Money he'd been saving for basketball shoes. He didn't know who I was. He didn't know what I could offer him in return. He helped because it was the right thing to do. Henry's voice grew thick with emotion. In that moment, this young man embodied the values I've tried to build this company on. Integrity, compassion, and selflessness. Values that, frankly, I think we've lost sight of in our pursuit of quarterly earnings and shareholder returns. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some faces showed appreciation, others discomfort. Near the back of the room, a man in an expensive suit, someone David had pointed out earlier as Raymond Torres, the company's chief operating officer, wore an expression of barely concealed irritation. I've established a full scholarship for Marcus to attend any university he chooses, Henry continued. But more than that, I've asked him here tonight because I want you all to remember why we're in business. It's not just about profits. It's about making the world better, about lifting up people who deserve opportunities. Marcus reminded me of that, and I think we all need that reminder sometimes. The applause was polite, but noticeably restrained. As Henry left the stage and the formal dinner began, Marcus noticed clusters of people whispering, glancing his direction, with expressions ranging from admiration to resentment. During dinner, seated at Henry's table alongside board members and their spouses, Marcus tried to navigate the multiple forks and cryptic conversation about market volatility and FDA approvals. His mother handled herself with quiet dignity, but Marcus could see the strain in her posture, the way she watched others to know which utensil to use. Then Raymond Torres approached their table, champagne glass in hand. He was perhaps 50, with slicked-back dark hair, and the predatory smile of someone who enjoyed confrontation. Henry, that was quite the speech, Raymond said, his tone carrying an edge. Very inspiring. Though I wonder if the shareholders were expecting financial projections rather than heartwarming stories. The shareholders got their projections in the written report, Henry replied coolly. I thought they could benefit from a reminder of our values. Values are important, certainly. Raymond's eyes shifted to Marcus. Though I hope this young man understands the responsibility that comes with such generosity. People will be watching him closely. Any misstep, any failure, and it reflects poorly on you, Henry, on the company. Marcus's stomach tightened. The words were ostensibly concerned, but the underlying message was clear. You don't belong here, and you'll probably fail. Marcus will do just fine, Henry said firmly. Better than fine, actually. He has something most people in this room lack. Genuine character. Raymond's smile didn't reach his eyes. We'll see. College has a way of revealing people's true nature. The pressure, the competition. Not everyone is equipped for it. He raised his glass in a mock toast. Good luck, Marcus. You're going to need it. As Raymond walked away, Henry leaned toward Marcus. Don't let him intimidate you. Raymond is brilliant at operations but terrible at understanding people. He thinks everything comes down to calculations and strategies. What if he's right, though? Marcus whispered. What if I can't handle college? What if I embarrass you? Henry gripped his shoulder firmly. Marcus, look at me. You've already proven you have what matters most. The rest is just work, and I've seen how hard you work. You're going to succeed not despite where you come from, but because of it." Later that evening, as the gala wound down and guests began departing, Victoria Sterling approached Marcus again. "I wanted to tell you something," she said quietly. "My husband and I started with nothing. We built our medical supply company from a garage. What Henry did for you tonight, putting you in front of these people, that took courage. Many of them believe success only counts if you suffer for it alone. They don't understand that accepting help with grace is its own kind of strength." Her words stayed with Marcus during the car ride home, as the city lights blurred past and his mother dozed beside him, exhausted from the emotional evening. He thought about Raymond Torres's thinly veiled threats, about Vanessa Mitchell's sneering comments at school, about all the people who would watch him now, waiting for him to fail. But he also thought about Henry's faith in him, his mother's sacrifices, and the simple truth that had started everything. He'd helped someone because it was right, not because it was strategic. What Marcus didn't know yet was that Raymond Torres had already begun making quiet inquiries, looking for any reason to prove that Henry's faith was misplaced. And in 3 weeks, those inquiries would uncover something from Marcus's past that would threaten to destroy everything. A secret that Marcus himself had almost forgotten, buried in the chaos of a difficult childhood. The scholarship that seemed like a dream come true was about to become his worst nightmare. The call came on a Tuesday morning, 3 weeks after the gala. Marcus was in calculus class when the office assistant knocked on the door, summoning him to the principal's office. His stomach dropped. In 17 years, he'd never been called to see Principal Hernandez for anything negative. Dr. Hernandez sat behind her desk, her expression grave. Beside her stood a woman Marcus didn't recognize, wearing a severe gray suit and carrying a leather portfolio. "Marcus, please sit down." "Dr." Hernandez said gently, "This is Ms. Chambers from the district's Scholarship Oversight Committee. She has some questions for you." Ms. Chambers opened her portfolio, extracting several documents. "Mr. Williams, we've received information regarding an incident from your past, specifically from when you were 13 years old. Can you tell me about what happened at Riverside Middle School in March, 4 years ago?" Marcus's mouth went dry. He'd buried that memory so deeply he'd almost convinced himself it hadn't happened. What do you mean?" "According to records, you were involved in an altercation that resulted in another student requiring medical attention. A student named Kevin Hartford. You were suspended for 5 days." The memory crashed over him like cold water. Kevin Hartford, the bully who'd tormented Marcus relentlessly that entire year, mocking his second-hand clothes, his absent father, his mother's job. The breaking point had come when Kevin shoved a smaller 6th grader down the stairs, laughing as the kid limped away crying. Marcus had confronted him. Kevin had thrown the first punch. Marcus had defended himself, but in the chaos, Kevin had fallen, hitting his head on a locker. The injury required stitches. Both boys were suspended, but Kevin's parents, wealthy and connected, had threatened legal action until the school agreed to seal the records as part of a settlement. "I was defending someone," Marcus said quietly, "and myself. It was 4 years ago. The concern," Ms. Chambers continued coldly, "is that Mr. Castellano may not have been aware of this violent incident when he offered you the scholarship. Some parties have suggested that you deliberately withheld this information to secure his generosity under false pretenses." "That's not true," Marcus's voice rose. "Henry never asked about my disciplinary record. I didn't hide anything. It just never came up," Dr. Hernandez interjected, her tone softer. "Marcus has been an exemplary student since that incident. Whatever happened at 13, he's clearly grown beyond it. Nevertheless," Ms. Chambers said, "Mr. Torres from Castellano Industries has raised concerns about the scholarship's validity. He's requested a formal review. Until this is resolved, Mr. Williams, I'm afraid the scholarship is temporarily suspended." The word struck like a physical blow. Marcus stumbled out of the office in shock. The hallway sounds muted and distant. His entire future, college, escaping poverty, making his mother proud, had evaporated in minutes because of a mistake he'd made as a traumatized 13-year-old. He didn't remember walking home or climbing the stairs to their apartment. He only came back to himself when his phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Marcus, it's David Preston. Henry needs to see you immediately. Can you come to his office?" An hour later, Marcus sat in Henry's private office, a space that somehow felt both imposing and comfortable, with family photographs alongside business awards. Henry paced near the windows, his expression troubled, but not angry. "I just got off the phone with Raymond Torres," Henry said. "He seems quite pleased with himself for uncovering your hidden past." The sarcasm in his voice was sharp. "He actually suggested I should feel betrayed. Can you imagine?" "I should have told you," Marcus said, his voice breaking, "about what happened when I was 13. I wasn't trying to hide it, I've worked so hard to move past it." Henry stopped pacing and sat across from Marcus. "Tell me what happened. Everything." Marcus explained it all. Kevin's relentless bullying, the smaller student on the stairs, the fight, the suspension. He didn't try to excuse himself or minimize his role. When he finished, tears were streaming down his face. "I wasn't a violent person. I'm not. But I couldn't just watch him hurt someone weaker. And when he came at me, I reacted. I was so angry. At him. At my life. At everything. My dad had been gone 5 years. My mom was working herself to death. And this kid was tormenting me every single day for being poor." Henry was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. "Marcus, do you know why I really offered you that scholarship? Because I paid your bus fare? No. Because of how you paid it. I watched you that day after you gave me the money. You didn't tell anyone what you'd done. You didn't seek recognition. You just went back to your seat like helping a stranger was the most natural thing in the world. That's character." He leaned forward intensely. "What you did at 13, standing up to a bully, defending someone weaker, that's also character. You think I'm disappointed? I'm more convinced than ever that I made the right choice. But Mr. Torres..." "Raymond Torres is a small man who mistakes cruelty for strength," Henry said sharply. "He dug into your past hoping to embarrass me, to prove that my instincts were wrong. Instead, he proved they were right. You made a mistake in how you handled that situation, but your instinct to protect someone was sound. You were a child dealing with trauma and injustice. The scholarship committee suspended the funding. The committee doesn't control my money." Henry's blue eyes flashed with determination. "The Castellano Foundation board meets tomorrow. Raymond is on that board, but he's outnumbered. I'm calling an emergency session, and I'm going to make sure everyone understands exactly what happened, and why it changes nothing about my commitment to you." The board meeting the next day was contentious. David Preston later told Marcus that Raymond had prepared an entire presentation about due diligence and reputational risk, complete with blown-up copies of Marcus's middle school suspension report. But Henry had been prepared too. He'd contacted Kevin Hartford's victim from that day, now a 17-year-old senior named Christopher Banks, who provided a written statement about Kevin's bullying and Marcus's intervention. He'd obtained statements from Marcus's teachers documenting his transformation and consistent character. He'd even tracked down the school counselor who'd worked with Marcus after the incident, who testified that Marcus had taken full responsibility and never shown violent tendencies since. This young man made an imperfect choice at 13, Henry told the board, his voice ringing with conviction. He stood up to injustice when authority figures failed to do so. He defended someone weaker. And yes, in the heat of the moment, he used his fists instead of better judgment. But show me a 13-year-old who's never made a mistake, and I'll show you a liar. The board voted 7-2 in favor of continuing the scholarship, with Raymond Torres and one ally as the only dissenting votes. When Marcus heard the news, he collapsed in his mother's arms, sobbing with relief. But Henry wasn't finished. The following week, he invited Marcus back to his office with a new proposal. "I've been thinking about what Raymond said, about people watching you, waiting for you to fail. He meant it as a threat, but I see it as an opportunity." Henry pulled out a folder. "What if we created a foundation specifically for students like you? Students who faced adversity, made mistakes, but demonstrated character and potential? You could be the first recipient, yes, but also the face of something bigger. I don't understand. The Williams Initiative. named after you and your mother. A scholarship program for students from working-class backgrounds who've overcome challenges. Some might have disciplinary records. Some might have struggled academically before finding their footing. All of them will have demonstrated character in meaningful ways. Henry's eyes shone with excitement. You inspired this, Marcus. Your story, all of it, including the parts that aren't perfect, could change lives. Over the next 6 months, the Williams Initiative took shape. Marcus became involved in selecting the first cohort of recipients, sharing his story at fundraising events, and mentoring younger students. His mother was able to reduce her work hours and even enrolled in online classes to complete her own degree. The transition wasn't seamless. Raymond Torres resigned from the Castellano Foundation Board in protest, joining a competitor company and making disparaging comments to business journalists. Some of Marcus's classmates still whispered. Vanessa Mitchell wrote a scathing editorial in the school newspaper about rewarding mediocrity, but Marcus had learned something crucial. That character wasn't about being perfect, but about how you responded when life tested you. He'd faced his past, owned his mistakes, and refused to let others' judgments define him. On graduation day, Marcus stood at the podium as valedictorian, his mother and Henry sitting together in the front row. His speech wasn't about his scholarship or his struggles. Instead, he talked about the power of small kindnesses, about bus fares and basketball shoes, about seeing people's humanity even when systems tried to make them invisible. We all face a choice every day, he concluded, to look away or to step forward, to judge or to understand, to protect our comfort or to risk something for someone else. I'm standing here today not because I was perfect, but because someone saw my imperfect choice to help and chose to help me back. That's what community means. That's what humanity means. The audience rose in a standing ovation. Marcus caught his mother's eye. She was crying, her hands pressed to her mouth. Beside her, Henry nodded with pride, his blue eyes glistening. That evening, at a small celebration dinner Henry hosted, Marcus finally asked the question that had haunted him. Why did you really do all this? The truth. Henry set down his wine glass, considering. Because 50 years ago, I was on a bus in Queens, desperate to get to a job interview at a pharmaceutical company. I'd lost my wallet. A young black woman, a maid like your mother, paid my fare without hesitation. I got that job. It changed my life. But I never learned her name, never got to thank her properly. His voice cracked. When I saw you on that bus, Marcus, I saw a chance to finally pay that debt forward. You gave me something more valuable than $5. You gave me redemption. Marcus felt something shift in his chest, an understanding that rippled backward and forward through time. His simple act had been part of a chain of kindness spanning decades, and it would continue beyond him through the Williams Initiative and everyone it touched. 2 years later, Marcus sat in a pre-med lecture at Columbia University, his full scholarship covering not just tuition, but providing him with opportunities he'd never imagined. Research positions, study abroad, networking with leaders in medicine. His mother had completed her associate degree and now worked in hospital administration, her cleaning days behind her. The Williams Initiative had expanded to serve 40 students annually. Marcus visited scholarship recipients regularly, sharing his story and listening to theirs. Each one reminded him of that day on the bus, of the choice to see someone's humanity and respond with compassion. And sometimes, riding the subway between classes, Marcus would watch other passengers and wonder about their stories, about the invisible acts of kindness that shaped lives, about the strangers who became angels, about the simple truth that we're all just one moment of generosity away from changing someone's world completely. He kept Henry's original business card in his wallet, creased and faded now, next to the bus receipt from that November afternoon. They were his reminders that the smallest gestures could echo across lifetimes, that character revealed itself not in grand speeches, but in quiet moments when no one important was watching, and he was right to keep them close. Because Marcus Williams' story was just beginning, and the lessons learned on that bus, about dignity, compassion, and the courage to help, would guide him through medical school, through his eventual career as a pediatrician serving underprivileged communities, and through his own legacy of lifting up others who, like him, simply needed someone to believe in them. The bus fare had cost $5. The return on that investment was immeasurable.